I want to tell you something about the laws of edut, testimony. So it says in the Shulchan Aruch and Ramah, this comes from the Gemara, Masechet Pesachim, Kuf Yud Gimel Amud Bet. It says over there that there's a story brought down there in the Gemara that there was these two guys, right? So one guy came to the Beit Din and testified about the other guy. So you know what he said about him? He said, this guy did a sin, you know. I saw him, he did a sin. You know, with a woman, something, you know, there. He saw him doing a sin. So what happened, right? The rabbi, he said, you did, huh? You saw him doing a sin. So you know what he did, right? He gave him lashes. Chach, 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 chach. Who? The one who testified or the one who did it? Which one?
Testified.
Right, the one who testified. He gave him lashes. Not the one who did it. Lashon Hara. Good. Right, so what's the story over there, right?
Jealous.
What's the reason why he gave him lashes?
Jealous.
And the other one, he let him off free. Nothing. You know what the answer is? Because he came to the Beit Din, one witness, right? Do we accept one witness? No, we need two. Right? Two witnesses we need to establish something like that, right? Yisurin. So since he came as one witness, he says, listen, you know, we can't believe you what you say because you're one, you're not two. We need two kosher guys, you know, to believe them. Two kosher guys. Kosher witnesses, right? So he told him, you just what? So what did you come here for? To speak Lashon Hara? About this guy? Right? Motzi Shemra? Huh? So he says, okay, we're going to give you chach, 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 like this, right? So this guy came on and said, he says, what? He says, this guy sinned and I'm going to be lashed. Crazy. Yeah, crazy. Because you're speaking Lashon Hara. You know what I mean? And your testimony has no bearing on the Beit Din. The Beit Din is not allowed to believe you. So you're speaking Lashon Hara. So he gave him lashes. You know, this is the thing. So therefore, you learn from there, right? Also, practical halakha, you know, that what? That if you're one single person, right, and testifying about somebody that he did a sin, don't ever come to the Beit Din and tell them this, you know? They cannot accept your words. You know what I mean? You're one person. So what are you doing? Still talking Lashon Hara. Don't ever come to the Beit Din. Unless you have two people, you know, kosher witnesses that saw what he did, so then they can come, you know? But the truth is, you know, today, the Beit Din doesn't really have the power to give lashes, you know? They don't have the power to do this today. I mean, so what are they really going to do anyway? Not really much. So, what's it worth, you know? Not really worth much anyway, but the point is, you know, if you're one, you're just coming to speak Lashon Hara, Motzi Shemra, right? Motzi Shemra is worse than Lashon Hara. Why? Because you're giving him a bad name. What does that mean? Because we don't believe you, so it's like, you know, you're spreading lies about him. We don't even know if it's true. Motzi Shemra, even worse. You know, this is the thing. So a person should never do that. And of course, you know, not only you shouldn't do that in the Beit Din, you shouldn't do that also in the shul, right? Come to the shul over here, you know, and tell the rabbi, I saw this guy doing this thing. What is it going to help to say these things? I mean, speaking Lashon Hara in the shul, or in the family, whatever, you know, in your house, you know what I mean, with your wife, you know, talking Lashon Hara, what's it going to help these things? Not allowed to say Lashon Hara. The truth is, you know, that there is an exception to this rule. You know what the exception is? Says the Rambam, if three people already know, you know, which is like a Beit Din, they already know about this Lashon Hara. So it's already, you know, spread, you know, in the community. Everybody's going to know about it already. If three people know, everybody's going to know in the end. You know what I mean? So once it's already public knowledge, you know, it's in the newspaper, you know what I mean? And they're talking about it on the internet, you know what I mean? This is already, you know, totally spread out, right? You can't stop that anymore. So therefore the Rambam says, you know, if you speak about this, you're not really liable for Lashon Hara. You know why? Because it already spread. You know what I mean? So there's no issue, there's no prohibition to speak about something which everybody knows already, you know? Everybody knows what happened. It was in the newspaper, it was here, it was there. You know, there's nothing there. Except one thing, right? They say, the poskim, that if your intention, you know, was to spread it even more, Now, in other words, you want to hurt this guy. You know what I mean? Your intention is to. So then you're liable, even for that. But if you're just, speaking, casually, in your family, let's say, right, with your wife, yeah, this guy, what they say that he did, right? He did this, yeah. Everybody knows about it already. So there's no prohibition of Lashon Hara. That's the thing, Okay, very good. But to come to Beit Din, like this, you're looking for trouble, you know what I mean? Don't come to Beit Din and tell the judges about these kinds of things. Unless you got two credible witnesses, right? And even then, who knows what they're going to do? They're not going to do anything anyway. So what's the point of it? Okay, that's one thing. Another interesting thing, I found that Maran, Rabbi Danielov, our rabbi, he writes in Yebi Omer, Chelek Zayin, something interesting. He writes over there that what about if two witnesses came, right, and they testified in Beit Din about something? And they're kosher guys, right? Shomer Shabbat, clean cut, good people, kosher. Right? They buy black kosher, everything is good. They don't shave with a razor. Right? If you shave with a razor, you're not kosher, right? You know that, right? That's not a kosher guy. Anyway, right, so came and they said something, testimony. And then, what they said, right? They said, why don't you take a, lie detector test? There's a machine, right, that tests you if you're lying, right? You know that, right? There's a machine like this. So what happened, right? They went to take the tests, and they both failed, The machine says that they're lying. So what's the halakha be'emet, right? Do we believe them or we believe the machine? This is the question, right? So the answer is, says Maran over there, we don't believe the machine, we believe them. Since they're kosher witnesses, you know what I mean? And everything was done properly in the Beit Din, they came, they testified. We have no reason to believe this stupid machine. Do you know, by the way, how this machine works? Do you understand what the mechanism is there? I'm not a big expert, I'm not a big mumche on this, but generally, right, the way it is like this, that this machine picks up on your nerves. You know what I mean? Because they say like this, that when a person lies, he usually gets nervous, and because of that, his heart rate goes up, and the machine tracks it, It says, goes up. Lying, you're nervous. You're lying. Liar, shakran. But no, you know what it is? Sometimes we don't believe this machine. You know why? Because sometimes a person can get nervous for other reasons. How do you know he's getting nervous because of that? Who knows? The Torah doesn't accept this kind of methodology. It's not accepted. So therefore, right, you can take 100 tests like this, lie detector, this test, that test, DNA, I don't know, God knows what. We don't believe these things. The only thing we believe in Torah law is testimony from two kosher witnesses. Otherwise, we don't have any business with this, you know what I mean? But what about when it comes to Isurim, like for instance, kashrut, or nida, things like this, which are not in the Beit Din, just, general guidelines to living. How many witnesses do you need for this, for kashrut? So there the Gemara says, Ed echad ne'eman b'surim. One witness is enough. One kosher guy is enough. You don't need two for that, right? Only you need in Beit Din two to establish, some kind of a thing there for isurim or for mamonot. But otherwise, you don't need two witnesses for what? To tell you, if I go to, to Boris's house, right? He invited me for Shabbat, right? And, I'm coming there, so what am I doing? I'm asking Boris, you sure everything is kosher over here? Black kosher? So he tells me, yeah. I said, what? So I tell him, yeah, can you bring me for these kinds of things, one ed is enough. You know what I mean? I don't need to now call Boris's cousin, you know he's kosher on this guy? Where is it? What do I need now his cousin now for? What do I need it for? You don't need that kind of thing, right? Also, when your wife, right, goes to the mikveh, you know what I mean? I'm assuming that your wife is a kosher lady, right? I hope so. So if she tells you, yeah, I went to the mikveh, I dunked in. So what? You have to tell her now, oh, let's call the mikveh lady. I don't believe you, Let's call her up, you know what I mean? See what if you're honest. Chesney. No, you don't do that. Why? Ed echad ne'eman b'surim. She's believed. She's one witness, right, that she went to the mikveh. That's all you need. Even though she's a woman. right? For these kinds of things, for Yisurim like this, we believe even a woman. Doesn't matter, man, woman, whatever it is, as long as it's kosher. What does it mean kosher? Keep Shabbat, God-fearing person. Religious. Yeah.
Regarding this, we have a halakha that says if somebody sins, and we have 101 people, judges, and if everybody says he's guilty, he is not guilty.
Yeah, you're talking about the Sanhedrin, right? If they all say he's guilty, right, we acquit him, we quit him. He's acquitted.
Right.
What's the reason for that? No, anybody have an answer? Come on, help him out a little bit.
Remind the story. What happened?
He's telling you like this, right? If the Bed Din, right? Big Bed Din, 70 judges, right? There's a guy who committed murder, let's say killed somebody, right? So they're judging him, for murder. And all 70 of the judges, what do they say? Guilty. Every one of them. Not one said innocent. So there, right, the rule is we acquit him, we say he's innocent.
What?
Good question, right? This is the question. So you know what the answer is? The answer is because if all of them are saying he's guilty, that means they didn't try hard enough, to find something to acquit him. They didn't try. That's why otherwise how could it be, all 70 judges are saying the same thing? There wasn't one guy there, who really made an effort to try to acquit this guy. So therefore we say, you judges, you're lazy. You don't make an effort to acquit him, so he's acquitted. That's it, right? Come on. You understand now?
All the judges cannot be wrong. 70 judges cannot be wrong.
Right, but you know what it is? Sometimes, I'll tell you something, my friend. The judges, if they're not making an effort to find the emet, looking in the books, opening it up, here, there, research. If they didn't do the effort, this is negligence, This is no good. Even though they're big chachamim, but you have to make effort, to find something to acquit this person. You know what it is? We always are looking to acquit. To say the person is innocent. That's what we want. That's the outcome that we want. So we have to make an effort for that, We can't cheat. We're not allowed to cheat, We're not talking about that. But make an effort,
That's why we don't have a judgment they're gonna kill him. You understand what I'm saying? They're not gonna put him to death.
Yeah.
There is no judgment like that right now in Israel, right?
We don't have right now because we don't have Bed Din. That's why we don't have Bed Din like that.
Right now Trump is taking this execution in order
already.
Yeah. They never used to do it before, for 40 years, I guess. They don't put them on an electric chair or something like that.
The Goy is supposed to do it, by the way. They don't need like the Jew. Jew needs to be Dayan for this kind of thing. Needs a smicha. Today we don't have smicha. Ordination. We don't have that today. So therefore, this is the reason why we can't kill anybody today. Anyway, that's a different story. But so I'll tell you a story and we'll finish here. I don't want to go too long. We have to do Arvit. To prove this point, right? There's a story like this. I heard several years ago. Rabbi Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, who was one of the big gedolim of the generation. One time, there was a certain lady, and she went to the Rabbanut. She wanted to get married, married some guy. So they go to Rabbanut and they give him, wedding certificate, right? Or whatever, kind of thing, right? So what happened, right? The Rabbanut tells her, you can't marry this guy. You're not allowed to marry him.
No.
So, you understand? So she asked him, why? She says, we have in our records over here, you're mamzeret. You're mamzer.
Wow.
You're not allowed to marry this guy. You know what I mean? You understand? They have everything written down. They have records, Rabbanut over there. Everything is recorded. So, what happened? Right? She started to cry, She became, hysterical, So she went to this big rabbi, Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, She told me, says, I went to Rabbanut yesterday, tried to get married, and they told me, I'm mamzeret, I cannot marry this guy. So Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, told her, bring me, your tik, your records, I want to see what's written there. Bring me from the Rabbanut this thing, I'll try to find you something. So what happened, right? That night, they say, he stayed up all night, until the morning, didn't go to sleep. And in the morning, finally he found her a heter, that she's not a mamzeret, He found her a way to get out of it. There are ways, to get out of this thing. I don't want to get into it now, that's a long discussion. We'll be here until the morning if I can talk about this now, right? But the thing is, right, that in the morning, right away, he called her up and he says, I found for you heter. You can marry the guy. So what happened, right? The Talmidim asked him. They said, Rabbi, why did you stay up all night? You could have slept a little bit, and a little bit later you could have told her. What's the big deal? So you know what he answered, right? He says, how can I make Bat Israel, wait for this kind of thing? She's all nervous, and all hysterical. How can I make her wait? I have to tell her right away. So why do I tell you this story? You see from here, right, that always you should try to find a heter. The rabbi has a job. If he's not making an effort, he's not a good rabbi, bad rabbi. Everything he says, asur, 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 asur. No good, this kind of rabbi. Oh, and they think, he's so religious, he's so kadosh. Everything he says, asur. No, it's not because he's kadosh. Because he's amaris, he doesn't know halakha, number one. And number two, he doesn't make an effort, to research. Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen, amen. רבי חנן, שאומר, יצא הקדוש ברוך הוא לזכות ישראל, לפיכך חיבה להם תורה ומצוות שנאמר אדוני חפץ, למען צדקו יגדיל תורה וידין.